All right. According to this, Chris, it says that we are live. So I'm
Very cool.
assuming that means that we're showing up on the Facebooks.
I am
So,
just gonna try and
yeah, track it down. Hey, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. Chris and I have been doing a podcast now for the past about a month now, actually. Sort of relaunched our podcasts as a joint podcast. And mine is Lead from the Driver's Seat with Al Rattan. And Chris Baker's is Maximize Your Potential. And they're both available on all the podcasting platforms. And if you want to listen, that would be great. And subscribe and all that other fancy stuff you can do. And we decided, hey, why don't we do a Facebook Live as we record our podcast? And so
yeah.
this will be up here for all time. And we'll be releasing this episode on the podcast platforms on Friday morning. But here we are this evening, and we're gonna just do what we do. So Chris and I pick a topic that we both agree on, and then we just talk. We don't really script our programs at all. We just sort of throw our own 2 cents in and our insights and have a conversation back and forth, and then we end it when we run out of stuff to say.
Right.
So anyways, welcome. I'm glad you're watching. I'm having a little bit of an issue seeing comments, so if you are tuning in, please leave a comment. It would be great to hear from you and see your comments. So tonight we're going to talk about finding your why, and my friend here, Chris, has done an amazing amount of research and work and writing on this topic of finding your why. And a number of years ago now, Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why, which has been widely publicized and very popular. And I'm sure hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people have read it. But Chris is also an expert on why, so I'm going to throw this back to him tonight to get us going on our discussion, and he's going to take the lead on this particular episode. So again, if you're watching, say hi. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, we will attempt to answer them. If not, we'll go back and answer later. But Chris, why is it important for us to find our why?
Why should we find our why? So yeah, it's interesting because I'd never really looked at this either, to be honest, until um gosh, I think it was probably 2016, 17, somewhere like that, where it I got involved in some work at Disney where I was working with areas to try and develop leadership potential and help people to grow. And
Mm,
one of the things we did is we actually studied Simon Sinek's Find Your Why, and then we facilitated that. So we were involved
perfect.
in helping um, an area of the organization determine and find their why, and then part of that was we went to the individuals to say, okay, so let's do a session on finding your own why. And that
Mm,
was when I first really started to think about what was my why. Right, I'd never thought about it before, right? Because
right.
one of the things that became apparent is we're taught what to think, right? We're not taught how to think. We're not
Mm-hmm.
taught to think about why we do what we do. We follow what we're told, right? And
Right.
it's
Right.
sort of in my research that this sparked, I realized that it goes all the way back to our education. Where again we do what we're told there.
Mm-hmm.
We also are influenced by our parents, by our relatives, as well as our teachers and people around us. So again, it's we're conditioned to think in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so what happens when you do that is you never really, I don't know. For me, I never really understood who I was, right? So I as I stop and I reflected back on my life, I realized I'd bounced around,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from job to job, from relationship to relationship, and I thought I knew what I wanted, but I never actually knew what I wanted. So
Okay.
so this is why I was like, okay, I'm going to make this more of a passion of mine, and my
Focus.
why. Um, was then defined as to add value to other people so that they can be the best version of themselves. Quite a
Amazing.
broad why statement, but it should be,
However,
right?
yeah, absolutely. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into a specific group. I mean, and I guess you say my why, and sort of the mantra for my business is to unselfishly seek the best or higher good for others. And again,
Mhm,
quite broad, but it's my goal for anybody that I work with is to,
mhm.
uh, do more than for what I was paid, right? Add more
Yep,
value than what I was paid,
yep,
deliver more than what I was paid, and to really help them become the best versions of themselves, similar to you. And
right.
I think that's why you and I connected so well, is
Mhm.
because we really do share a lot of those same values as wanting to help and serve others.
Yeah.
Have I always been good at that? No. You can ask people I've worked with or for over the years. Probably haven't always been good at that, but I'm a work in progress too, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm perfect the way I am, and I don't think any of us have arrived, but I choose to have that unselfishly seek the best or higher good for others as my mantra, I guess you could so to speak, my why,
Mhm.
about why I do what I do. And if I can do that successfully, then I think I've done okay in life, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
that's yeah,
yeah,
so
go
oh, go
please
ahead.
go.
S
No, no,
Well,
you go, you go.
I was just gonna say, oh, that's the whole point of it, right? Is we do what we do to help other people, but how
Right.
does it make you feel, right? When you help somebody, no matter how big or small it is, you help somebody, you see that little light bulb moment where somebody gets it, and you're doing good for other people. How does that make you feel?
It's you know what? And I'm going to say this, but clients, I want to get paid. It almost makes me want to do it for free because it makes me feel so good, right? Like it makes me
Right.
feel like I've accomplished something and I've helped someone else succeed. And really, there's great joy in that. There's great joy in that. And I think that, even
Yeah.
just, I pulled a quote from Simon's book just before we started here. It says, and he says this: when motivated by why, success just happens. When motivated by why, success just happens.
Mhm.
What does that statement say to you?
So here's the you're not you're doing it for the right reasons, right? You're not thinking about what am I trying to get out of this,
Mhm.
right? You're doing it. You're doing your why. You're fulfilling your purpose, right? You're
Absolutely.
living a
Yeah.
meaningful life. You're
Right.
giving back to others, and that in turn gives to you. Right,
Mhm.
Zig Ziglar said, "If you give enough people what they want in life, you'll get everything you want in life." Right? I
Absolutely.
maybe butchered that a little bit, but
Yeah,
it's that's the
that's the
sort of
gist of it.
concept, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you're doing it not to gain anything. You're doing it to help, to serve, right?
Mhm.
Because that's what makes you feel good by seeing others feel good. So
Right.
if the this is where I think a lot of people fall into confusion with this, right, Al? Because they think about their why being as being a motivation, all right?
Yeah.
And your why is not your motivation.
Why would you say that?
So because your motivation is you're not doing it because you want to make yourself feel better, right?
Yes.
You're
Yeah,
doing it because you want to serve others. Now, a
exactly.
lot of people will say to me, I'll say, "Well, what is your motivation?" And they'll say, "Money's my motivation." And I said, "No, it's not." I said, "Why do you go to work?" "Well, go to work to earn money."
Mhm.
"Okay. Why do you need money?" "Well, I need it for my family, or I need it because, you know,
Exactly.
my kids wants to go to college." "Okay.
Right.
Why is that important to you?"
Mhm.
And so you start digging deeper, and then you get to the why. So your motivation then becomes, you know, you're wanting to give somebody else a better life,
Mhm.
right? You're wanting to help somebody.
And I think that's part of the problem, and I think actually if a lot of people really gave this some serious thought for a few moments and just really focused on this question and asking, "What is my why?" I feel, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I feel a lot of people would not know what that is.
No.
And that's actually sad, because technically then you're allowing life to dictate to you the direction you're going to go and the things that are going to happen, versus you taking control of it. If my mantra is to unselfishly seek the best or higher good for others, then everything that I do should be measured against that. And that gives me my purpose, my vision, the goal, the larger goal I'm working to, right? My why. Versus not knowing, if I'm in business to make money. Okay, well, great. What does that benefit anybody?
Right.
Right. And I think a lot of people get lost or stuck on that. And I like what you said about the whole, why do you go to work?
Mm-hmm.
It's more than to just earn a wage.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, going to work is not, you're not going there to earn a pay. That's not your why. The paycheck is not the why, but it comes from what comes of that money that you bring in for going to work,
Exactly.
right?
The
Sorry, I stumbled
paycheck,
over my words there.
yeah, no, the paycheck is a vehicle, right? It's a
Yes.
vehicle to
Yes.
deliver what you need,
Right.
right? So it's like when you get in a car and you set out on a journey, is the car your why? No, the
No.
car is what takes you to where you're going, right?
Right. Right.
The car is literally the vehicle, and that is the vehicle that takes you to where you're going. But you have to know where you're going, right,
Mhm.
to be able to get there. So John Maxwell said that anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to plot the course.
Right.
Right now, again, people will say this. We talk about leadership all of the while, and people say, "Well, we're not leaders. It doesn't relate to me." Yes, it does, right?
Mhm.
Because you influence people every single day of your life. It's
Absolutely.
said that even the most introverted, I think we mentioned this on a podcast before, even the
Yeah.
most introverted person will influence 10,000 people in their life.
Yeah. And how are you influencing, right?
Right,
If you have your why set, then you're going to live out that purpose you've determined for your life.
right. And you mentioned a word that is a favorite C word of mine, which is control, right? And
Mhm.
not because I want to control others, I don't, but I want everybody to take control of their destiny,
Right.
right? You have the
Mhm.
power, the ability to take control of your destiny and therefore determine the direction that your life goes.
Yeah.
But you have to do it intentionally.
Exactly, because again, then if you're going to let the circumstances of the circumstances that come, because you know what, trials will come,
Hmm.
opposition will come. The negative forces out there are going to try and pull you off track. And
Yeah.
I think really once you discover your why, it keeps you focused on the end result, right? Me serving people, me helping others, me earning that paycheck so I can provide for my family, like Chris said, me
Hmm.
getting in my vehicle so I can reach my destination. And I think if we can remain focused on that, when all this adversity comes against us to try to pull us off track, and we dare say the word, pull us away from our destiny,
Hmm.
um, then we're going to look back on life. That's where that regret comes in.
Correct. Yeah.
And I don't know about anybody else. I don't want to look back at when I'm 80 with regret, wishing I had
Yeah.
done something differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people tend to live in fear of failure,
Hmm.
right? And fear stops us from trying a lot of things. What we need to do is live in fear of regret,
Hmm. Agreed.
because there's nothing worse, as you said, there's nothing worse than regret.
No,
All right,
absolutely
so
not.
let's do that. And
Yeah.
and the thing with your course of action as well, Al, is if you don't know where you're going, right? If you haven't set yourself a an objective, a mission, a vision, a goal, whatever you want to call it, right?
Mhm.
And I talk about um, dreams being a big overarching something huge that is big and scary, right?
Mhm.
If you haven't got that, one thing I can almost guarantee you with almost 100% certainty is that you'll never get there, because even if you get there, you won't know you're there because you haven't identified it, right?
Exactly.
It's not clear. And so finding your why is all a part of that, right? And then your why, what you were saying earlier is dead right, is that you use that as your decision making barometer,
Exactly.
right? Is this decision, does it fit? Does it align with my why? Is it
Mhm.
going to take me towards my objective, my vision, or not?
And I think that a lot of the world, like, okay, both you and I are disc human behavior consultants. And if we look at the S type personality, which makes up probably the largest portion of the uh, world population is an S type or a supportive type personality. And one of the hardest things for S type people to do is to say no, right?
Right,
And I always use the example of, we need to learn how to when we're okay. So here's the thing, right? You have your goals, you have your dreams, you have your desires. Hopefully you have them written out, that you've got them on paper somewhere, and that you're referring back to them on a regular basis to ensure that you're on track. But here's the thing, again, large percentage of population, S type personality on the disc model of human behavior scale. Okay.
hmm,
um, Hardest thing for an S personality to do, say no. Why? Because they want to say yes to everything. They want people to like them. They don't like conflict. They don't like,
yeah,
but here's the thing that's going to happen. And I think it is a Jim Collins, right? If you say yes to all of the good things, then all of a sudden, when something great comes along, we don't have any margin left in our calendar for the great.
right,
So we either A, have to break our word and tell somebody, I'm sorry, I can no longer do what I committed to do.
mhm,
Or you have to say no to the great and keep your word and stay to the commit. But here's the thing, if you know your why, if you've got those goals down on paper, if you know the direction you're headed, when all these things come along to try to steal your attention and steal your time, you can evaluate it against your why statement, your
right,
goal statement, whatever it may be, and say, does this align with that? And if the
mhm,
answer is no, then it's a simple. I
right,
have to say no. I appreciate the offer. I appreciate you asking me. At this time, I cannot, right?
yeah,
And just say no.
yeah, yeah. And you're so right, because there's only 24 hours in a day, right? There's only 7 days in a week, and one thing's for sure, you can't work all of those, because you you
Oh,
need
yeah.
time. You need time for yourself. You need time
Mhm.
for sleep. You need time for your family. So part of this as well is understanding what are your values in life, right? What are
Exactly.
those things that you won't compromise at any cost?
Right.
And so again, to me, it all falls under the awareness, right? The banner of awareness, knowing what's important to you, knowing why it's important to you,
Yeah.
knowing what it would mean if you didn't have that, right? So again, we're looking at emotions as well. And so,
Absolutely.
I sort of wrote about this, and uh, I've put it in different lessons and so on before. But what I call a purpose, vision, strategy, right? So it's like a three-legged stool, and you need all three of these. So your purpose is why I do what I do. Right now, you'll hear
Mhm.
why defined as purpose, why, whatever. To me, it's all very similar, right? People will argue that it's
Absolutely.
different and so on, and maybe it is, but let's
But
not
this is
go down.
our podcast, so we can say
Yeah,
whatever
we
we
can
want.
say
Yeah.
what we want, right? So the purpose is, why do I do what I do? What's the
Right.
reason for which for which I do that, right? And part of that is your values,
Mhm.
right? And that's got to be defined and got to be important. Then the vision is what do I want the outcome to be? So again, think 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years in the future. Where do you want to be? What do you want your life to look like?
Mhm.
Right. So if you could, an exercise I've done with people, I said, if you take a blank piece of paper and you can design and create your ideal life, what would it look and feel like? Right. The feel is very important, because the
Absolutely.
feeling is the emotions inside. Right. And
Right.
you're an emotional intelligent expert as well. So you know all about emotions. But what would that life look and feel like? And when I do this exercise, I say, don't think about it in terms of, well, that's never going to happen. That's never possible. Well, if you believe that, you're right. It never is. So
Right.
forget those limitations, forget those
Mhm.
boundaries. just design that. What would it look
Exactly.
like? What would the house look like? Where would it be? Would it be by a beach? Would it be in the countryside? You know, what cars would you have? Who would be with you in that? Would it be, you know, a spouse, kids, grandkids, whatever? Right. So what's that vision? And what does that feel like? And make it as vivid and clear as possible.
And
And then
then
the last
sorry,
sorry,
no, go on. Just
I
know
was
the
just gonna
last
say the
thing.
last part is the strategy, right? Because
Right.
you can understand why you can design this thing, but if you don't take that other A word, action,
Mhm.
you're not gonna
You're
get
not
there,
gonna accomplish anything.
right? Yeah,
And I think the important thing too is once you've nailed this down and you've determined, in your heart of hearts, this is my why, this is the direction I'm heading, is don't let anybody steal that dream from you,
right.
steal that vision from you, right? Because you are gonna
Mhm.
naysayers are gonna come along and say, "Oh, you'll never do
100%.
that," and but
Yeah,
here's the thing, even if you don't get to the end result that you've set down on that paper at now, at least you can look back saying, I gave it my all, versus, like we said earlier, that regret, looking back
mhm,
at the regret. I know when it comes down to this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we can't work all. I've become over the years, as I've gotten older and established some of my priorities and my values, I've gotten very protective about my time. And
yeah,
I know that for me, especially Saturday evenings, Sunday are family time. It's
right,
important to me. I
right,
want to spend time with my wife, especially my kids are grown now, but spend time with my wife or have the kids over. I still have one at home, have the other one and his wife over. That's very precious time to me, and
mhm,
very few things can pull me away from that. Or that's a Saturday evening we'll take to entertain guests or something like that. My
yeah,
Saturday, I come into my home office here, and that's my work day, content creation,
yeah,
updating websites, doing all that fun stuff that needs to get done. But the evening and then Sundays, very precious to me, and I let very few things
mm,
in because that has become my why for that time frame,
right,
right? And I think it's important for all of us to determine again what that is, so we stay the
yeah,
course.
yeah. Because you know, I almost guarantee that you haven't always had that awareness, right?
No, no. I can tell you early in my career, I was focused on work solely,
Yeah,
and that was my number one priority. And here's if you're younger, have young kids or don't have kids yet and planning on having them someday, take something from the older guy here.
yeah,
Don't look back with regret on how little time you spent with your kids because you were
right,
so focused on career, because
yeah,
that was me, and I missed hockey games and baseball games and soccer
mhm,
matches and so much stuff. And when I think about that, I'm filled. Even though my kids, we have a great relationship now, love them, they love me, it's a really good relationship. I still have that regret that wells up inside me
right,
when I think about those missed opportunities.
yeah. But here's the thing with that, and I have, the same, right?
Mm.
Exactly the same, you can do that.
So listen to the
But
two
you
old guys.
right, yeah. I'm slightly older than you, so yeah, but you can't go back and change that, right?
No, you can't.
All you can do is learn from that.
Exactly.
And again, you know, I think John said it as well, and I think someone had said it before him, but you can't go back and make a new beginning, but you can start today and make a new ending,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying, but you have to lay the foundations, right? So, you know, you've just bought a new house and, you know, but you when you look at the house, right, what's
Mhm.
underneath it?
Whole lot of concrete.
Whole lot of concrete. Why? Because if there wasn't concrete, would the house stay standing?
Odds
Maybe
are
for
it
a
would
little
not.
while, right?
Not for long. Not with the
For a li
wind we're having today.
There you go, right. But it will stay standing for a little while, but the first sign of, movement of whatever, right? So think about this in your life, right? You may be going along and you may be going through the motions. You may be like a duck treading water, right? So on the
Yeah,
surface, it looks nice and smooth underneath. Your feet are going like bang, bang,
exactly.
bang, trying to keep stationary,
Yeah,
right? You'll be able to maintain that for a while, but sooner or later, you're gonna run out of steam, right?
exactly.
Sooner or later, that house would come down if it's not got a strong foundation.
Mhm.
That strong foundation that we're talking about is this finding your why and
Absolutely.
creating that awareness. Because
Absolutely.
now you've found that out, what's happening in your life? I know good things are happening in your life, right?
know what? Good things do happen when you get your priorities straight. You
Yeah.
get your vision set, and
Mhm.
I mean, and you know what? And you like so universal law of sowing and reaping, right? You start sowing seeds, right? Once I knew what
Yep.
my why was and why I was doing what I was doing, then you start sowing the seeds and the reward comes. And you know what? And this back to this quote by Simon, when motivated by why, success just happens.
Yep.
Would I say I have achieved all my goals? Not even close, because I'm constantly reevaluating and setting new ones to stretch me even further. Doing this podcast on Facebook Live is a stretching thing for me.
Mhm.
But you know, success, my definition of success, I think I'm living it.
Correct. Yeah. And let me just you just said something there that made me think, and gosh, I know we've been going 25 minutes. We could
Yeah,
probably we
we'll
could
wrap up
probably
here
talk
soon.
forever, but
Yeah,
maybe we do a part 2 of this next week.
part 2, yeah.
But there's a difference between a vision and a goal.
Mhm,
All right. And now I know you do a lesson, and I've seen this about goal setting, right?
mhm,
And goal setting, you use the SMART method, right? So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, right? A vision doesn't fit in that model, because a vision, it could be specific, right? Because I'm saying to you to be as detailed and as possible in designing it,
right,
but you may look at it and say, well, is that measurable? Not necessarily, right? Because you're talking about way in the future. Is it achievable? Well, yes, it is, because anything is achievable if you believe in it and you
mhm,
put your mind to it and you take action. Is it realistic? You may look at it and say that's not realistic, right?
yeah. Me being an opera singer is not realistic.
Right?
Not that that's one of
And
my
and
goals.
and we're not putting a timeline on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so what you have to do in order to get to that vision is you set your SMART goals.
mhm,
Right, and then your SMART goals should be, you maybe have a 6 month, a 12 month, a 2 year goal. Your
yeah,
goal shouldn't necessarily be any further than that,
no,
because if you
things
try and
change.
set them too much further, they seem unachievable, right? And
Right.
then you've got that tendency to give up.
And one other quick thing on that too, when setting them, if you say, "Oh, I want to make $1 million," and one of our mentors, you know, Paul Martinelli, has said this in the past, right? He goes, "You set your goal is I want to make $1 million." Well, if you haven't even made $100,000 or $50,000 in a
Yeah,
year in your lifetime, and you set a goal of making $1 million, your mind doesn't believe you can do it. It's
no,
an un it's un it no automatically you're telling yourself you can't. Your subconscious mind is like, there's no
right,
way I can only make $50,000 now. There's no way I'm going to make $1 million. You need to start with the small. Okay, my goal is going to be to make $100,000,
yeah,
and then from there $500,000, and then from there $1 million a year.
right,
Right? You need to start at a realistic place, and then stretch.
yeah.
So
But
yeah,
you're still aiming towards that.
still aiming towards it.
That's
Yes,
your ultimate goal, but your
exactly,
measurement is the steps, right? It's like that, how do
exactly.
you eat an elephant? One piece at a
But
time,
it's yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And the other thing, I'll say this and then you can wrap up, but
All right.
the other way I look at it is like a navigation system, all right? If you got in your car now, you're in Manitoba, and you said, "Okay, let me put in, Orlando, Florida, because 'cause I'm gonna go and see Chris," all right?
Mhm.
If you got in that car, what is the first thing that that navigation system shows you? So you've put in, it knows where you are, you've put in your
Yep,
destination. What's
yep.
the first thing that shows up on that screen?
It's gonna tell me my first turn
Right.
or my first
Because you
street
already
to be
know
on.
you're gonna go and turn left out of your street or right, whatever it is, right?
I
And
do turn left.
then it there you go.
It's the only way out.
Then when you get to that left turn, what does it tell you then?
Yeah, it's gonna tell me to turn right.
Right. And then you might
And
get on
then
the
nope.
highway, and it says on the highway, "Stay on here for 10 miles."
Yeah,
Okay, I
or
know I'm on there
kilometers,
for 10 miles, right? Or
or
kilometers, yeah.
kilometers. Yeah,
So, but the point is, it's just telling you the next step. It's not
exactly.
telling you when you get to, I don't know, the which way you
Minneapolis,
would
I
end up
don't need to
coming.
go.
Yeah, when you
Yeah,
get to Minneapolis, you're gonna turn right at the clock tower.
right.
Why doesn't
No,
it tell you that? Because 'Cause you're not even there yet, so why do you need to
exactly.
know? You don't.
Exactly.
So think
So
about
who's
that with your
yeah.
lives,
What's
right?
our next step? What's the
Yeah,
next step? Right? Or
yeah,
what's the next 2 or 3 steps just so we can see a little bit further down the road, but we don't need to know the
right,
the end or the last 10 steps yet. Maybe we
correct.
need to know the first 3.
Right. And the fact is as well, those last 10 steps will probably change, right? Because as you grow and you get stronger, your mind broadens and what you thought was going to be a big step, actually you've
Turns out to be
already
a small step. Or you've
right,
already done that.
you've done it. So
Yeah,
you're onto something else.
exactly.
So don't
Man, this
limit
is
yourself
good.
with that.
This is
Yeah.
good. But we're in 30 minutes, which is the longest one I think we've done yet. So we're gonna wrap it up. And we always want to leave everybody with a challenge and some homework, so to speak. So
Mhm.
we're going to challenge you to spend the next few days really determining and then writing out your why.
Yeah.
Find your why. Why are you doing? What is the real purpose of you going to work every day? What is the real purpose of you spending time with your family? What Find your why. What are some of those values, those things that,
Mhm.
this is my time, this is in my calendar, nothing's going to pull me off this track. Spend some time doing that. And one other exercise that Chris and I did a few years back, which was scary at the same time exciting, is remember we had to write that letter to our future self.
I do.
So
Yeah.
if you look and say, okay, I'm going to write myself a letter and I'm going to put it in an envelope and I'm going to put it away and then set an alarm on my phone to open it June 1st, 2023. And in that letter, you're going to write a letter to yourself in past tense, telling yourself what you did in the past year, right?
Mhm.
Oh, this year I read so many books, and this, write that letter to your future self. Dream a little bit about what you would think your life would like to be like June 1st, 2023,
Mhm.
and then work towards that. Put it
Yeah.
away in an envelope and then open it next year and see where you're at. So
Yeah.
that's just a challenge for us for today. Chris, any last words before I tell everybody how to find us?
Yeah, just remember when you're doing all of this and when you're doing that letter, it's important to put down how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
when you're thinking about those questions that Al says to define your why, and you should do that first before you
Yes.
write that letter to yourself in a year. But
Yes.
think about what fulfills you,
Mm-hmm.
what gives you the most satisfaction in life, what motivates you. Right? Those questions
Yes.
will help you to understand the truth and dig deeper in that. Don't just take the
Right.
surface,
Don't do
right?
surface.
Go several layers deep,
Yeah.
and really identify that. And if you need help, follow us on social media.
Absolutely.
Watch this recording again and put comments in there. Al and I will come back to you, and if you've got a question, a comment, or whatever, feel free to put it in there. We'll always come back to you, and that's
Mhm.
the same if you're watching this on Al's YouTube channel, or if you're listening it to on our podcast. Hop back over to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can find Al and myself on there
Yeah.
pretty easily.
Yeah.
And the other thing, please, please, please share this with as many people as you can.
Yes, please do that.
Yeah.
We'd
And
appreciate
if
it for
you've got
sure.
teenage children, college age children, I encourage you to have these conversations with them.
Mhm.
Right. We'll probably go more into that in future weeks, but I
Absolutely.
encourage you to start having that conversation with them.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in, watching, leaving comments, and listening in. And this will be, like I said, live on our podcast platforms on Friday morning. But you can find Chris Baker at Maximize Your Potential, and I'm Al Rattan, and my podcast title is Lead from the Driver's Seat. I don't know how I came up with that, but I kind of liked it, so I went with it. Anyways, go find your why. Go find
Yeah.
your why, and we'll be back next week with another episode. So have an amazing week, everyone. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.